Testing. Good deal. All right, I think everybody's made their way in. Once again, on behalf of the committee, the Hall of Fame committee, it's my pleasure to welcome you. This is our second Hall of Fame inductee banquet, and it's just it's an awesome thing. Last year, we were kind of off because of COVID, so our banquet was a little later than we really wanted to be, but hopefully we're back on track now, and just going to get exciting more and more every year. So welcome to all of you. A special welcome to our inductees. Such a deserving honor to each and every one of you. I'm going to take a couple seconds here just to give some thank yous. Once again to Rodney Cummins and his group. Great lunch. Rodney did it for us last year. Just does a fantastic job. Rodney's always there when we need him. And he does a great job. To Lori Hippensteel, I think I saw Lori. She's up above. She's blanking me out on TV so that y'all don't have to watch this later. But she organizes, sets up, takes care of the kids that help her, and does a fantastic job. Also up above, Rodney Freeman. He's live streaming this event, so you'll be able to watch it, doing both the audio and the visual. Jonathan Glenn, he created and worked on the Hall of Fame videos, which you will have an opportunity to see here in just a little bit of each one of our inductees. The Hamilton Heights High School student government members, you saw some of the kids. They were here yesterday setting up and doing different things. Cameron Runner, Vincent Harley, Andrew Morrison, Tegan Madeira, and Nick Hewlin. Great job. We're very fortunate here at Hamilton Heights. Our kids really get involved and do a lot to help out. Also this year we do have some sponsors that were helping us out with this event. You notice some of them in your programs, but our sponsors this year were Beck's Hybrids, Glenda and Sonny Beck, Beaver Gravel, Chris Beaver out in Noblesville, the Knapp family, my parents Don and Dottie, and also the Thomas family, the Mike Thomas family. So a big thank you. If you put your hands together, it's really appreciated when they step up and help out with everything we need. I'd like to introduce our committee members at this time. Greg Knapp, myself, Arnie Cooper. Arnie, if you stand up real quick. Where's he at? There he is, Arnie. Mike Thomas, right here. Mr. Tony Cook, I know Tony couldn't be with us this afternoon. Mrs. Ruth McKinney, Ruth couldn't be here. Mr. Bill Trackman, Bill's off telling kids they need to run harder at cross-country meet, so a big thank you to Bill. Maria Mitchell, one of our students that is also on the committee. Mr. Guy Griffey, also one of the students on the committee. Our Jared Mason, the principal here at Hamilton Heights. Mr. Derek Arrowwood, our superintendent, also on the committee. Mr. Kurt Ogden, our athletic director here at Hamilton Heights. Mr. Chad Ballinger, Chad's our high school varsity basketball coach, and he is the secretary. And Mr. Mitch Street, he is our committee chairman, and he is the dean of students here at Hamilton Heights. Mitch is right here. Mitch is going to come up in just a second. I just want to read a little something. It's on your program about the Hall of Fame. It was founded in the year 2019 with the inaugural class scheduled to be inducted in March of 2020. The Hamilton Heights Athletic Hall of Fame Committee was made up of students, current and former coaches, administrators, and community members. The Hall of Fame also considers, includes, and encourages nominees from all the historic schools which merged to form Hamilton Heights. All individuals inducted were nominated by outside community members, and the committee only considered individuals and teams who were nominated. We're excited this afternoon to recognize our second Hall of Fame class. At this time, I'll introduce our committee chairman, Mr. Mitch Street.
I want to echo what Greg said and just give a big thanks on behalf of the committee for people who nominated individuals and teams, as well as those who are in attendance today, and friends and families of those individuals. And so it's been a really fun process over the last couple of years to put this together and start processing through all the different individuals and teams and coaches and those types of things that deserve Hall of Fame recognition. I think this class is a very true representation of what Hamilton Heights and the feeder schools represent, both on the field and courts, as well as off. And so very, very proud of this class and very excited to be a part of it. I'm going to turn it back over to Greg here in just a second, but I do want to explain a couple things, and then there's one other additional thing I want to do. So all inductees today will be receiving a plaque like this, okay? I want to explain this because this is not a very festive-looking award for those inductees. But once we're done with this, we'll take you down the hall here, and you'll be able to see your display. That display will be on display for the next year, and then will be taken down when the next class is inducted, and that will be yours. And so this plaque will replace the plaque that's on that one, and those plaques will go on the wall next to it, which is our running display of all the Hall of Fame inductees. So very, very classy look. I think you'll be very pleased with how that represents you and the people that are a part of you. And so I did want to explain that to you. But before I turn it over to Greg, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment of silence here. We were in 20 years ago, our world changed pretty dramatically. And so before I turn it back over to Greg, I'd like to just take a brief moment of silence in honor of those who lost their lives 20 years ago in 9/11. Thank you.
All right, we're about ready. We'll get started with our inductees. Just a little brief thing about what we will be doing. We will have a video, and you are really going to enjoy these. Once the video has finished, I will introduce the individual that will be introducing the nominee, which is it is pretty neat because they have a lot of very interesting things to say, and then we'll move down through that. Once we are done, like Mitch said, they'll try to take some pictures back here in the hallway with your plaque for you inductees because it's kind of cool. Get your families involved, and we do so appreciate all the families. This is about your family and yourself and what you've represented, but it's also about our community. This is an amazing community, and for Mitch to spearhead this and bring Chad on board, and they started getting other people involved to be able to do this each year, it's really, really pretty special. And once again, we do thank you for being here to do that. Are we ready? We're going to start off with our very first video.
Super athlete. And in our days, he couldn't, there wasn't anything he couldn't do as an athlete. He wasn't the tallest guy, but he could go underneath and score anytime he wanted to. One of my best friends I got.
He was 5 years older than me, but he was my idol. He was an athlete that I wanted to become later on. And he was, like John said, strong, and he could play baseball, football, basketball. I heard he's probably a better football player than he was at basketball, but Ron was kind of my idol.
I'll let Mike talk about Noblesville.
Yes, I think that year, of course we did not have class basketball back then, and Noblesville was unbeaten, and they were probably #1 in the state. When Jackson Central went to play Noblesville, and it ended up, it was a team effort because when you hold Noblesville to 6, I think the score was 62-60, I think. When you hold Noblesville to 60 points, that took a team effort. It was not all Ron, but Ron scored 45 points on his own. He just dominated the game.
That was one of the the highlights of our 4 years together playing ball. But Glenn Harper, one of the best coaches around. And it was funny at halftime. Our locker rooms were right next to each other. Harper was screaming at those boys, trying to wake them up. But for some reason, we could pass the ball anytime we wanted to. Ron, he was natural at his 2 points before the 3-point shot. But yeah, that was one of the Noblesville game was and every time we beat Noblesville, that's a season right there. So that's pretty well what Mike and I think about the same way with Noblesville.
Ron was a very friendly basketball, football, and baseball player. But he always took the time to talk to the younger children, and I appreciated that.
The junior high kids always hanging around Ronnie and everything. He never shoved them away. Like Mike said, he'd take time and talk to him. But his personality was unbelievable. I'm really proud of Ronnie. He's a natural athlete. In any sport he played, he was the best. As soon as he got out of high school and went toward Vietnam, and sorry to say, he got wounded pretty badly. But he never got down on it and everything. But he's quite a man, I'll tell you. He's a good old local boy, country boy out there on Knott Road, right there north of Arcadia. You'd have to be walking around and talking to him to really find out what type of person he was.
I went in the service as well after high school, and Ron and I got out about the same time, so we got to spend some moments together, and that was a big deal for me because I really looked up to Ron, and he could have had an attitude, but he did not. He was Ron Ackles.
I tell you what, I wasn't sure what Mitch was going to have us doing and all this, but I really took me a few hours to get back to 1950. We were Atlanta Golden Gophers, but we really clicked together and everything. And like I say, Ron and I went through 12 years of school together, playing sports together. Show you how Ron was such an outstanding athlete. He was actually in the 5th grade. That he was playing with the 8th grade team up there at Atlanta. I'm very proud of Ronnie, what he's done through the school years. Looked up to Ronnie to what he did after school. He enlisted in the United States Marine Corps and went right over to Vietnam. And he got wounded very bad. And it really could have messed him up completely, but he went through that tough time and everything. But you figure from the time sports, and then I just want to thank Ron for serving, giving us the freedom we have. I say, God bless you, Ron. You're my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to congratulate Ron for, it's been a long time, almost 60 years, to get this honor. But anyway, Ron, I want to thank you for
At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Deb Harrington.
Thanks, Greg. Can you hear me? Okay. What an honor to be here. My name is Deb Harrington. But in 1984, when I graduated from Hamilton Heights, my name was Deb Ackles. Ron Ackles is my uncle, and I have to be honest, it feels a bit ironic being here to introduce him today. I say this because though I knew my uncle was a great basketball player, not once did he brag about his accomplishments. Not once. So I really had no idea how good he was. And quite frankly, all these years, I thought I was the best athlete in the family. And yes, better than you. In my defense, the glory basketball days of the 60s didn't get discussed when I was a kid. Uncle Ron left for Vietnam the day I was born. So sports was a vision in his rearview mirror. And when he returned from war, life never seemed to be about him. Instead, before he had his own kids, Ron focused on coaching me in basketball and my brother in baseball. My brother and I were new to town, young, mopey, and in need of a coach, a mentor. He was a tough coach, the kind that after you won a game with the winning shot, he'd pull you aside and have you make 50 free throws before you could hit the shower. Because had you made your free throws during the game, you wouldn't have had to make that winning shot. During my 4 years in high school, Ron came to my practices. He attended every home and away game, often sitting under the basket. I can literally hear him to this day yelling, "Block out, pivot." Number 22 can only go left. Eyes up, who's open? Keep the ball moving, shoot. I'm pretty sure all my teammates also still hear your voice. When I wasn't playing, he'd pick me up on a random Tuesday evening and we'd drive to Marion or Anderson to watch some of the best players in the state. We'd then discuss what made them so good on the drive home. Basketball was our passion, and little did I know at that time I was learning from the best. So last week when I spoke to Ron, he said, "Hey, do you still have any of your high school clippings?" I told him, my mom saved everything. So yes, I did still have my high school sports clippings, and so he wanted me to bring them when I came down today for the ceremony. So there we are at his kitchen table a couple nights ago, going through my newspaper clippings, reminiscing my glory days of basketball. And honestly, I was feeling really proud of myself. And then Kim, his wife, brought out Ron's old clippings. I started flipping through. First of all, it's about this thick compared to my this thick. I started flipping through all the clippings, and I started getting phrases that were jumping out at me. Brilliant shooting by Ackles. Ackles sailed over the 1,000-point career mark. Ackles, a 4-year veteran who will go down in Jackson Central and Hamilton County history as one of the greatest. He dribbles like Plump, works under the basket like Ligon, and plays defense like it isn't a lost art. I looked up from these headlines, and let me just say, I am most definitely not the best athlete in our family. It is my honor to introduce you to a humble, talented man, a veteran, my hero, my uncle, Ron Ackles.
I don't know how to use this real well. But first, I'd like to introduce my family. Gary is my nephew, my brother Bill's boy. Debbie is my niece. My grandkid, my wife Kim, is sitting with my 2 grandkids, Remy and Riley. Gary's kids, Taryn, Kendall, Ben's girlfriend Michaela, and Gary's wife Mindy. It's really an honor to be here. There's some guys that I played ball with here today. Jerry Cook, Gary, Danny Shields, good ball players, great ball player. John Knapp's here. We played, like he said, for 12 years. Mike, Thomas. It's an honor to have this award, but I really want to thank the selection committee for having this on this day, because of our brothers and sisters 20 years ago lost their lives in this radical war we was in. And we do have some first responders here. We have Jerry Cook, Gary Cook, Glenn Schrock is here, and them guys are heroes. So with that, I want to thank Arnie Cooper, Vicki, Greg. I want to thank him. And with that, thank all of you for coming. Steve Redenball, I see Steve here. I played against him. He's a Bobby Knight guy. Right, Steve? Okay. All right. So thanks for everybody, and I appreciate it, and congratulations to the inductees today. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, this year's inductee, Mr. Ronnie Ackles. All right, next I would like to introduce to you Mr. Steve Redenball, and I'm not going to say anything. Excuse me. Video. Man, I get so excited about all this, I just forget about the video, and they're awesome.
We were teammates for 3 years, from 69 through 71. I guess the biggest thing, shooter. I mean, we played together, like I said, for 3 years. And one of the things that I always thought was special was that during that time, we got the opportunity to play against some really good players, of the teams that Heights played at that time. And I mean, you could tell the specialness just from that. I mean, from the games that we played against some top level competition. So yeah, I guess, I would go that way, yes. You want to compete against the best people. And that brings out the best in you. And that was, I think, what we were able to do. Both of us, Rick in particular in this situation, but both of us, you try to play your best against the best. I mean, that gives you that added incentive to be the best you can be. The first game, when he set the scoring record, was our first game of our senior season. He had 54 in that game. That was against Eastern. And we had just finished an undefeated football team, this season. And so then that was game one of the basketball. So everything was kind of rolling pretty good. Later on that season, we were in a tourney, I think it was at Winchester, where he had 45 in the afternoon, and some of the guys were kidding him. He'll remember this, about his arm being tired, all right, from the afternoon, because that was where we played 2 games that day. So then he had 45 in the afternoon, and I actually forget why he had that evening, because we had to play. We got beat by Winchester, but so that was one of those funny deals there. But the guys in the motel room was kidding him to ice his arm. So he'll appreciate that from me. He's more of a basketball player because I played baseball, basketball, and football, and Rick ran cross country and ran track, I guess. So we really, other than the basketball, didn't cross paths. Rick was the best man in my wedding. So we've been friends for forever and ever. And I guess one of the things, that I would say for him is that, he's always kept the same even keel, 50 years later. This is our 50th reunion year. So, I just, he's very deserving and wish him well.
Hard worker.
Yeah,
Sorry.
very smart, kind,
Good leader.
generous. He's from
Good businessman. I worked with him for several years at McMahon's, so he was a good businessman.
He really took care of the less fortunate. Very friendly.
Yeah.
Very friendly.
Can talk to-
He doesn't know a stranger.
Can talk to anybody.
Yes.
And will. Good sport. When he was playing ball. Didn't throw tantrums and get in trouble and got benched because of acting up or anything like that. He was always a pretty good sport about everything.
I remember being confident just because Rick and Don were playing that there'd be a win.
We called them the M&M twins. They always made the game exciting. I was cheerleader, and the games were just always exciting. It's kind of like what we said before.
He's a good friend. I mean, and even after, as we planned reunions, class reunions through the years.
Every 5 years.
Yeah, he was the leader. He was at the top. He's
a rock.
He really was.
Always willing to step up and do whatever was needed. In high school, I'm not sure he hung around with us a lot.
I think he was scared too.
I think he was scared of us girls. He always seemed to have a girlfriend from another school because I don't think he, yeah.
And we were looking through the yearbook, and he was in all of the clubs. But that's the way he was. He just participated in everything and loved doing it.
I just remember the reunions that we had, that he made sure that, well, if we have a raffle or whatever, if there be somebody that was less fortunate, he made sure they got something. He just seemed to care.
He always made sure the dinners were paid for. He just would take care of anybody that couldn't afford it.
I was in a class with him one time when he saved me from a very embarrassing situation.
Well, I always called him Ricky. Everybody had a nickname, and he was Ricky. And no, they couldn't have picked a better person to go into the Hall of Fame for Hamilton Heights, and I'm really proud of him.
Rick, congratulations. This is an honor, and you do deserve it. It's I know you're a humble person. You don't want the attention, but it's being given to you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Congratulations, Rick. You really deserve it, and I'm glad that you're going to make this Hall of Fame, and you really deserve it.
Rick, you are so deserving of this award. You made our basketball games so exciting to watch during our high school career, and we just are so glad that you got this award and so proud of you.
And ditto, 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 ditto. And congratulations.
And now, I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Redenball.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate whoever is responsible for this campus. Beautiful. My, from what we went into in Jackson Central to this, beautiful. Middle school, grade school, the high school, wow. You guys ought to be proud of whoever was responsible, and I take my hat off to them. All you people showing up today, great, super. I'll try to get this out. Not sure I can. Maybe in a minute. When Susan called me, I thank her for reaching out, giving me a chance to come here. I didn't hesitate. Sure, I'll be here. I wouldn't miss it. And all you honorees, congratulations to you. It's a wonderful honor that your peers and people think this much of you. And I know they do. They got good reason for all of you. I came here 56 years ago this month. I was hired in as a teacher and assistant coach basketball. My first dealings were at Walnut Grove, which I see is not here now. I loved the place, old, but it was nice. And about 2 days before school started, being my first year, I had to go check and see, find my way around. It's a big building. And I heard a ball bouncing in the gym. I go in. You walk down that top floor, if you remember. I looked down, and there was this little skinny kid down there hammering the ball. And he wasn't bouncing it like you normally would hear. He was bouncing it with a purpose. You know, he wasn't down there shooting hook shots or three-pointers, which he didn't have, but he wasn't shooting half-court shots. He was working on something. Well, now that's interesting. We'll find out later. Ricky, he's a 7th grader. But the ball got my attention. He wasn't down, he was down there practicing, and he'll admit this. We've never talked about this. But he'll tell the truth that he was down there preparing himself for that last-second shot against Noblesville, Carmel, maybe the Sexton, maybe even the state tournament. But that's what he was doing. I thought, geez, that's great. So I didn't even talk to him that day, but one thing did cross my mind. How in the hell did he get in here? You know, when I tried to get in the gym back in Paola, I had a key. They'd run me out. The principal never knew I had a key. I'm thinking, well, how in the world did he get in here? So easy. I think I knew. He lived right around the corner from Bud McDonald. Bud probably let him in. Truth is known. Thank God he did. So started class, and this is, you know, there was his dedication, his work ethics. Then came along, had him in PE class. He wouldn't have it. When we played softball, football, volleyball, basketball, he had to win. You know, he wouldn't let anybody else win. There was no second. I thought that was very admirable too. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Physical fitness test come along. Same thing. And they had another kid in the class as a different, I think he was in a different class that day. Physical fitness test. We did set-ups, push-ups, pull-ups by the national standards. And this kid, another one, had done 812 set-ups. You think, my God, why would somebody lay on the floor and do 812 push-ups? Ricky's class comes in. Now, that word gets around how many you did. You can't keep it quiet. I made him quit at 8:25. Class is over. Get out of here, you know. And yeah, that was just him. And then I have him in class. Had him in health class, and then Indiana history as an 8th grader. Same thing. You know, you'd feel embarrassed as a teacher. You couldn't give him a question he couldn't answer. His report card never saw a B. Never saw one. All A's. That's all he could do. That was Ricky. Lo and behold, then watched him 2 years play on the 8th grade team, 7th and 8th, and he was the star of the team without any doubt at that particular time. So when I go back to IU that summer after his 8th grade year, and I'm going to get my master's, and I get a call, and I said, well, if you want the job, the head coaching job's open, do you want it? Well, sure. So when I came back after the 3rd year, Ricky goes in as a freshman, I go in as a coach. It didn't take 2 practices before I realized he's not only going to make the varsity, he's going to start. He was good. And he did. Had a wonderful year. Averaging double figures as a freshman. He had a couple of seniors named Carson and Ryan who kind of hogged the show, but he took care of himself. He could play. Then I come back unfortunately, my last year, I didn't know at the time when he was going to be a sophomore. And, you know, you got to, I just mentioned he has the physical ability, he had the work ethic, he had the brain, he had all these things. But, you know, there's a lot of people have that. But to get a little farther, you got to have something else. And he had that something else, which you can't teach. It's just got to be there. And that was, he wasn't afraid to make a mistake. He wasn't afraid to take a chance. You know, in anything you do, business-wise or all, if you want to move up, you must take a chance. Of course, when you take a chance, you got two results. You succeed or you fail. He didn't worry about failing. That wasn't part of him. So he did a lot of that stuff. And it wasn't me that did it. You know, coaches sometimes get a lot of credit for player development. Really, it's not that way. I would venture to say in most cases the coach is 20%, the player is 80%. In the case of him, it was 10 and 90. He did it all, and I got the credit for it. You know, he made me look good, and I thank you, Ricky, today. And again, congratulations. I was going to say 2 people are missing. That's Charlie and Fama. And if you knew them and him, you know, they thought he hung the moon. There's some days I thought so too. Thank you. That hurt.
At this time, I introduce our 2021 inductee, Mr. Rick Mccoskey.
Thanks.
Might as well rip this up.
Couple things. Definitely, I want to thank the committee. You guys have a tough job, because there's a lot of good people that come through this school and teams, and thank you very much. Everybody that was on that committee, I really appreciate the honor. As I spoke to Mitch last night at the football game, I told him I mean, a little prejudiced, but I feel like this is an unbelievable class of people that's in this and the team that's in this. And what a great victory last night for the football team, man. That, for homecoming, really, really good. Congratulations. I've got so many friends and family here, I can't believe it. This is remarkable. And people I haven't seen in a long time, thank you for being here. It's been great. Back to the people that are being inducted in the team, I'd like to say a few things. Ron Ackles, I don't know Ron well. I know the history, and I know that he was he scored over 1,000 points in 1962, or that's his senior year. And I know a little bit about the history. He was I think the third person in Hamilton County to score 1,000 points, and nobody scored 1,000 points in the 60s. I talked to Coach Don Bockert a few weeks ago and let him know about what was going on. And Coach Bockert knew Ron well. And he told me, he says, as smart of a basketball player and as good of a basketball player he was, he goes, I think he was a better baseball player. That's what Coach said. Alicia Bundy, what a track star she was. I got to know her pretty well because my wife Susan was the assistant women's coach that time, so I saw a lot of her track meets. And with Alicia, it was not a matter of was she going to win 4 events each meet. It was a matter of she was going to set another record each meet. And she went to the state championships 4 years in a row. Remarkable. Dennis Lockhart, I really don't know Dennis, but I know his history and what a great athlete he is, and his West Point career in wrestling or West Point is phenomenal. And the 2012 runner-up football team, I was at that game at Lucas Oil. They were an unbelievable team, and if Coach Pete Smith was here, I don't know if this was the last game that he got to announce at the stadium, because Coach Smith is a friend of mine, and he said I was going, and he said, well, I've got an extra parking pass. Would you like it? I said, sure, I like that. Do you have any extra press passes and maybe some buffet passes or anything? He goes, no, I don't have anything like that. He goes, but I'll take care of you. So we're at the game, and as the first half ended, there was Hamilton Heights made a 4-player tackle on one of the Chittard players, and as Pete announced it, he said in on the tackle was James, Beck, Gardner, and Mccoskey. And people are looking around the program going, Mccoskey, he's not on the football team. So I'm not sure if Pete got to keep that job after that, but I was at that game. It was a great game. Now, where do I start next? I was very fortunate to play from 1968 to 71 when basketball was king. There was 4 TV channels, so on Friday and Saturday night, everybody went to a basketball game on Friday and Saturday. There was nothing else to do. So with that, we played in packed gyms almost every night, and always when we played against Noblesville, Tipton, Elwood, Carmel, Sheridan, LaPel, packed houses. So it was a great experience. It really was. Now, I didn't know that Coach Redenball was going to be here today. My wife and Coach Redenball kind of did this behind my back. So I'm not sure what else we can do, but I could go into a lot of stories. Coach, I'm not sure, but before the day's over, are we going to be lining up on the line and doing blood and gut runs? And okay, I just wondered, because we did that a lot when he was coaching. He wanted to make sure we were in shape and practically dead, I think. I'm not sure you could do that today, the way you ran us. One thing I know that Coach was at, when I was in junior high, as he was talking about, and then when I went to high school as a freshman, and I scored a lot of points in junior high and everything, but we're in the gym. I just finished cross-country practice, and I'm in this gym shooting around, and I didn't really know Coach that well, and he comes up and he goes, do you know how to shoot a jump shot? I said, I don't think so, because nobody taught me how to shoot a jump shot. So Coach was he's a really good shooter, really good. So he says, here's what happened. You take the ball, jump up. So I did what he told me to do. I hit about 7 in a row. I go, wow, this is so much better than what I've been doing. So I really appreciate it, Coach. I didn't know how to shoot a jump shot till then. The Coach was also very offensive minded, so we played up tempo. We scored a lot of points. During those years, we scored anywhere between 75 and 79 points a game with no 3-point line. And as most everybody around probably would say, Rick probably didn't shoot a shot that wasn't a 3-pointer unless it was a free throw. So we would have scored some points. And I know that Coach Ballinger enjoys offense too, so I appreciate what he's doing here at the school. One thing, we did not win every game, but I thought we would. And when we didn't, I was shocked. That was my approach: win every game and never miss a free throw, but I missed a few free throws along the way. Again, thank you very much. I really appreciate this honor, and thank you for coming.
I'd like to present this to 2021 nominee, Mr. Rick Mccoskey.
Thank you.
Congratulations, bud.
A pretty dedicated individual. As a student, very dedicated, and in his sports the same way. Didn't matter what sport it was.
He was just a great teammate. You know, he was always encouraging. He was always a leader on how to work. You know, whether it was pre-workout, post-workout, during it, he was the epitome of a great teammate.
He's a heck of a leader then and still is now.
I don't know that there was a lot of separation because the people that came into our wrestling room were there to work. You wouldn't know him any different than anybody else walking in. I said he was a humble person. Still is probably to this day. Talking with him, he's still just very humble about what he does.
When I think about it, you know, these two guys right here, if you look at the trophies on the walls and the banners down there, you know, it really started with that core group and with what, you know, these two guys here built as a team. And it was always about team. You know, we walked into Muncie South, you know, they always laughed at us because we're picking straw out of our hair, you know, and we would go in and hang with all of them. And we were consistently sending people to Newcastle as, you know, contributors and you know, legitimate shots to get out of those in regional and semi-state. And Dennis was always come on, let's work, let's all get there. And it was always about team, it was never about me.
When I think of my brother, the first word that comes up for me is dedication. He was the guy that after a full wrestling practice would go and lift weights and do, you know, putting 225 pounds on a bar and walking up and down the gymnasium steps and just keep doing things afterwards. And after his high school career, he went to West Point and he continued to do that stuff there. And then, you know, he eventually made it into, as part of the military, to special operations, where he continued to gain rank and do very highly sophisticated stuff and planning and all this other stuff. And it's still, to this day, he is very dedicated to working out.
I think he could have probably gone anywhere he wanted to in school, academically. He could have gone anywhere he wanted. And choosing West Point wasn't a surprise. And West Point appointed, you know, giving him an appointment there wasn't really a surprise at all. I think he could have gone anywhere he wanted to. And that's what he did. And as Greg said, his dedication, I think he knew right off the start that this wasn't anything that he couldn't handle. Matter of fact, I think he relished the challenge of doing those things. Still is to this day. He's doing things now that most of us probably at that age, he's retired from the military, would have just said, I can settle. But that's not him. Well, he had a couple of very good moves that he did in wrestling, and I'm not sure we taught him. And when I first saw him do a throw from up on top, I remember looking at Keith and where'd he get that? He did a lot of good things that we taught, but he was also willing to take some chances out there and do some things to make it fun for him. And he did some fun things.
For me, I wanted to go in and end the match as quickly as I could. Dennis wanted to make it last
And
so
wrestle.
he could practice and wrestle. And I never understood that.
Yeah.
But that was him. He was a tactician and just wanted to be very technical and go out and do stuff. Even if it was a guy he knew was really good, he wanted to stay out there to work.
One of the things that Coach Barron would have us do at times was we'd shut off the lights, we'd kind of lay on the mat, and we would, in our minds, wrestle the perfect match. And I remember being with Dennis. It was a holiday tournament up at Tri-Central, and their 189-pounder was very highly ranked. Dennis was still kind of flying under the radar, but doing super well, beating kids that, of course, he should beat, but other people didn't think he should. You could see in his mind he was wrestling that perfect match against that kid.
Congratulations, Dennis. I said to represent our wrestling program as the first inductee into the Hall of Fame is quite an honor, and it's an honor for us as well to have that, have you be inducted into the Hamilton Heights Athletic Hall of Fame.
Dennis, I'm proud to have wrestled with you and worked with you through those years. It was my honor, and I'm very happy for this acknowledgement of you, your dedication, your hard work. Proud of you.
To Dennis, you did a heck of a job. Continue to do a good job, and congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. Hall of Fame.
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Dan Watson.
I thank you. I thank the Hall of Fame committee. When I got asked if I would do this presentation, I was tickled to death, and I think you should be scared because it's about 12 years since I've had the opportunity to stand in front of people and talk to people since I retired from teaching. And I thought this could be scary for me. It could be scary for you too, because I haven't had that much of an opportunity, and I relish this opportunity. I don't know if you could tell through the video, but the four of us sitting there talking about old times and talking about wrestling and talking about Dennis was fantastic. I wish I could do it more. I just don't think there's enough time in a day for me to sit and talk and listen to what others had to say about what we did in the wrestling program. One of the attributes and characteristics that you've seen from the two previous honorees here was that they're humble people. They're humble people. You wouldn't have known it. Deb, I thought that was fantastic, that you had no idea how great of a basketball player your uncle was. Rick, they mentioned the same thing about you. Dennis would be, that is a characteristic I think all great athletes have. Although you hear sometimes in the news, in the TV, in the papers, quotes from them, truth is, majority of the very good ones that people love, people want to follow, they have that characteristic. They're very humble. You wouldn't know Dennis Lockhart was the person walking these halls of Hamilton Heights, that he was as good as a wrestler as he was. He was as good as a person. That's what you knew about him. You didn't know about his wrestling. You didn't know about his athletic prowess. You knew that he was a very good person. And he got that from his family. When he got to us as a wrestling and got to our program, we talked about in this video, he had some discipline. I got some credit for that. But truth is, he had it before he got to me. He had it from his family. His family, this is the discipline. Mother is a retired police officer. His wife is a military person, retired military. His brother is a Hamilton County sheriff. There's some discipline there. They had that. He had that before he got to us. So when he got to us, all that we didn't have to work on. We didn't have to teach anybody how to work hard. He knew how to work, and he knew how to work on his grades. He was a great student. He was a National Honor Society. He was top 10%. He got an appointment to the Army Military Academy, West Point. Just don't get in there. I wouldn't have gotten in there. Average people wouldn't have gotten in there. You wouldn't have known that he was not the elite as he is. Dennis's records through high school, I've often been asked, what do you remember? Do you remember this win? Do you remember that win? I don't remember a whole lot of the wins. I remember the hard losses. And I remember the hard losses for the athlete, not for me. Dude, I got another day. I got another team. But I remember him for the athlete. Dennis, when he was a senior, was 49-1. He was down to state meet, 49-1. Couldn't imagine 49 wins, let alone one loss in my whole senior career. Dennis was a 2-time sectional champ. And when we were in sectionals, it was one class wrestling. We wrestled Noblesville, we wrestled Carmel, we wrestled Muncie South, we wrestled large schools. Andy Sterrett, one of his friends in on this video, talked about when we went to Muncie South, they were taking these hayseed Hanks coming in from Hamilton Heights, and they wrestled very well. They were very impressive. Dennis was one of the leaders of that group. Didn't have to tell the other wrestlers to work hard. They watched him. They saw what he did. They saw how hard he worked. You wouldn't know in our wrestling room if he was the top or he was down here trying to get to the top. He worked with every single wrestler. Didn't matter where they were. Didn't matter what level they were at. He worked with every single wrestler. Dennis is, as you see in the program, went on to be at West Point, served 21 years in the military, retired as a lieutenant colonel. Very humble. He still, to this day, is working as a retired for the United States military. He wouldn't, this would be hard. If he were standing up here and me talking to him, he would be crawling under this table because he's that humble. But that's the kind of people, I think, that make great leaders, that make people that we admire, and we want to be around those type of people. It's my privilege, if I can, to introduce Dennis Lockhart.
Hey, thank you, one, to Mitch and everybody that put this together. The coach said, I don't like standing up in front of people talking about me. This is hard. It's not about me. Nothing I've ever done in my career was about me. It's about the people that are around me, my family, my teammates, my coaches, and as I'm coaching now, I get to talk about what I did, and I think I had the absolute greatest coaches in the entire, I know I had the greatest coaches in the entire world, and I honestly think this school is one of the greatest places in the world. The care and the energy the teachers and the staff and the community puts into everybody that goes through here, and look at all the great things that the other people that are on this, that have been inducted today have done and continue to do and continue to develop. What's awesome is that we've got Ron being inducted, but his niece is the one that thinks she's the great athlete, and putting that energy and coaching into those that are younger than us. And Coach, everything you guys have done, you and Coach Farron did to make me a better person, a better wrestler. And the truth is, for those that don't know, the reason I went to West Point is I was the last one to get punished, to get corporal punishment in this school system in the hallway. So I'm not going to say it was Tony Cook, but somebody might have paddled me in a hallway. And I deserved every one I got, and I never did it again. But I had to go there for discipline. I had to go to another school that kept me out of trouble. But again, I just really want to thank everybody for putting this together. It is amazing. It's amazing to be back here and see this school in such terrific shape and how much it's growing. So I can't thank you enough. And Coach, thank you again, and I appreciate it.
Don't use one of your moves and throw me.
No.
I just want to say, don't use one of those moves, think it's old times, and throw me down, because I probably wouldn't heal very quick. Ladies and gentlemen, 2021 inductee, Mr. Dennis Lockhart. Congratulations, brother. Awesome.
I think of a kid that is the hardest worker and the person who does not want any attention on her, but she'll do whatever you ask her to do, and she'll do it until she about dies. I knew she was different when we saw her in the 100, and she was really good. 200, she got a little better. And the 400, I thought, well, this is gonna be too hard, this is gonna be too long. And I stood, at about 50 yards into the 100 mark and watched as she accelerated into the backstretch of the 400. And she picked off juniors, seniors, and that just, I knew right then, she was smart. We hadn't trained her, we hadn't told her how to run a 400. We said, go run a 400, and she ran her race, and she always ran her race. She started kicking in about 200, 250. That was it. She just started picking people off, and about 99% of the time, it worked. Alicia was extremely intelligent, first and foremost, understood you had to work hard to get what you wanted. She's very humble, and she really wanted everybody else to do well. She was a long jumper, and nobody really trained her in long jumping, and yet there'd be times when we'd talk about how to long jump, and I'd see her then with freshmen, and even she'd be a sophomore, and freshmen and sophomores when she was a junior. So she would do those little things that winners do, because you realize, yeah, it's an individual sport, but it's a team sport. If you make other people better, we're all gonna be better. That was what she did. Junior year, county meet, 100, 200, long jump, 4x1. It was a rough, I mean, that's a lot to ask of one athlete. So, okay. And four golds, 4 firsts. I'm a meet high point, obviously team high point. And we're talking Carmel, Noblesville, Westfield, Southeastern, Heights, Sheridan, and she just took over the meet. And it was to the point where everybody was watching Alicia. People knew her name. And she had done really well freshman and sophomore year at county and at any big meet. But by junior year, they knew she was coming, and they knew there wasn't one discipline in the sprints and then in relays that she couldn't take over. Freshman year, you would not even knew she was in the school. She was just so quiet. Head down, go to class, kick it. I mean, all A's, honor roll. She'd come out for winter practice and conditioning, very reserved, very quiet. You'd see her in the halls and say, hey, how's it going, Alicia? Fine. And just keep walking. She had friends, but she was pretty much by herself by choice because she wanted to be the best that she could at it. So she was pretty serious. As she got better, as people recognized her more, the biggest thing is Alicia was Alicia. She didn't change. She got a little bit more outgoing. You'd see her in the halls and she would maybe say hi, but maybe not. Not because she was conceited or thought she was better. It's just she was focused on, she was going from this class to this class, and what do I have to have prepared? And then she'd come out to the track and all the girls loved her. After high school, she did run track at Indiana University and really determined that her heart was in veterinary medicine, and ended up, she had to wait out a year and went to Purdue, which back in the day nobody went from IU to Purdue, and Bundy did, and her hard work and her discipline and the way she just approaches everything. She's now a doctor of veterinary medicine, and I saw it. I knew from freshman year, 1992, 93, she was going to do whatever she really wanted to put her mind to do. B, you know I'm really proud of you. You know what we went through. You know the meets where it was you and me over in the corner. And I couldn't be prouder of everything that you've done, who you are, who you've become. And I look forward to just seeing you in your future because I know it's going to be great. Congratulations.
At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Mrs. Susan Mccoskey. And her sidekick, he still wants to do a wrestling move. I can tell it.
Okay, I'm better when I'm not talking about me. So I was told, Alicia told me that I'm not allowed to humiliate her, which the fact that we're up here talking about her is going to humiliate her. And she'll be mad, and she'll hold that against me for probably the next 30 years. I also call her the Bundinator, so if I refer to her as that, that will make her more mad. Something about Alicia, and it's the characteristic that everybody said, humble beyond belief. But what makes Alicia, different is the focus that she carries through every single thing that she does. I will tell you, I had classes with Alicia. I had Spanish class with her, and I have trouble sitting still, and I used to mess with her. And she would just turn around with this fire. It's like, I am in class, leave me alone. But that was the way she approached every single thing that she did. You couldn't congratulate her after a run. She didn't want to talk about it. She wanted to get ready for the next event. It was focus on what you do, get better, and then move to the next thing. And she was like that through high school. She was like that in track. She was like that when she went on to college, went on to be a veterinary doctor, and then in her own life. And I've remained friends with Alicia throughout my entire life. I've got to call her, she is the greatest, most humble, most caring person you could ever meet in your life. When you don't make her mad. So I'm sorry that I know that this humiliates you, anybody talking, but she truly is. I have always looked up to her. Everything we've done, as I watched her in track and I watched her in class, she was somebody that I could look up to, knowing how disciplined she was. And if you compare yourself to her, you're undisciplined. And she truly is somebody that you could look up to your whole life and be proud of. And it's always been proud to call her a friend and to watch her succeed as she goes on.
Since we're tag teaming, I let him do the stuff that could get him in trouble a lot more than me. B and I have already talked about this. This is just not her thing. What was her thing was freshman year, setting school records in the 100, the 400, the 1600 relay, breaking county, sectional, and regional records as a freshman, state qualifier, MVP of the county tourney. Follow that, sophomore season, new record for the county in the long jump, in the 200, and our track team that year had a record of 80 and 10. Many of those points came from B in the meet. Hamilton Heights was third in the sectional. She was the champion in the 200 and the 400. That year, she was also inducted into Honor Society and was on student government. Kind of coming out of her shell just a little bit. I'm sure someone had to probably bribe her to run for student government. I can't really think she did that on her own. Junior year, we tied for second in the county. She won the conference. She scored 40 points in that meet. Coach Reeves was there. We were second in sectionals. We were fourth in regionals. She had the record for the long jump. She qualified for the state again through wins in 4 events at regionals. She was in Honor Society. She was on the homecoming court. Senior year, she was vice president of Honor Society. She was winter homecoming princess, fall homecoming princess, student government officer. She won the 100, the 200, the 400, and the long jump in every single meet we ran that year. She qualified for the state In the 200 and the 4x1 relay, bringing along for the first time 3 teammates, because for the first 3 years she went to the state with Griff and I, which was fun but was pretty lonely, especially when we're there with North Central and Warren Central and all these schools that have 20 girls, Carmel, Noblesville. Along the way also, we were first in the conference. We were second in the county. Carmel won by 2 points from Alicia and 2 other Heights athletes. We were 2 points short. We were second in the sectionals. Also, Alicia played volleyball for 4 years. She was an exceptional hitter. She was very, very dedicated. And the minute she left that, she came to track and hit it just as hard as she hit volleyball. She played basketball for 2 years, but there was some concern about how tired she was getting and her knees were hurting, and she really, really loved track. So she decided she would just concentrate on volleyball, because that was a fall sport, give herself a little bit of a break in the winter to train super hard, and then come out for track. One of the things Dennis alluded to, and some of the other people did, Alicia was very shy and very reserved, but she was a fantastic teammate. She was a coach's joy. I mean, she was so fabulous. You would just give her her workout. Is there anything else I need to do? She'd go do her workout. She'd come back, and she'd say, does somebody need help? All the time. She was the last person from probably the end of sophomore season through junior and definitely senior, last person to leave. She'd leave with Griff and I. Always made sure if there was a kid running a new race, she'd be there if she wasn't involved in a race. She was always at the finish line for races that she wasn't involved in. She even went over to shot and disc. She'd go down and see Amanda or Brooke or whomever high jumping. She just was a great teammate, and it's kind of carried over. If you're her friend, and we are her friends, you just know that this kind of stuff, she just doesn't like it, but she appreciates it, and I know that her family is extremely proud of her, and this is a really nice recognition and very, very well deserved.
(2021) inductee Alicia Bundy.
I guess team chemistry was the thing that team stands out to me. I've always been big on technique and effort and that sort of thing, but and that's important too, but there's a real need for team chemistry and leadership.
I think balance. There's some teams that are really, really good where offense is outstanding and the other 2 phases aren't, but really all 3 phases of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, were very balanced. They all contributed significantly in almost every single game.
They listened to us. They were able to execute what we wanted to do, and I mean, they were just solid group of kids.
I'm not even sure this was our most talented team that we had. I mean, they're up there for sure. There's no doubt you don't win that many games and get to that level without being really talented. Like you guys said, all those things combined really put them in a position to where we had the success that we did.
We lost our first and last game of the season, and we lost both games in the dome, and we lost that game to Tipton, and we made adjustments that very next week. The leadership that took care of that, the adjustability, like Chuck said, comes from the guys that was getting told what to do by their leader, and they accepted that, and they work to get better. Their goal was the same as ours.
I think it was after that game too, we started putting signs up around the locker room that said, "Don't let good get in the way of being great." And we posted those all throughout the locker room. We had opportunities to be great, and I think, like you said, that group, that message resonated with that crew. You know, sometimes you can put cliche messages out and things like that, and some teams just kind of blow it off and it's not a big deal. But with that group, I think they, one, believed it, but and then two, embraced the challenges that went along with, you know, reaching that goal. You know, and another thing too for me that I thought, man, this group's got a chance to be special is the spring before the next season started. We had the Ryan White A's Walk. A bunch of the graduating seniors had told them that they're not going to be nearly as good without them, and they were just fired up, you know, and they were ready to prove them wrong.
It got toward the end of the season, we got into the sectionals, and winning 3 straight games to win a sectional is a tough thing to do, but they took it 1 week at a time. We just did what we had to do that week to get that game, and we got in that real nail biter up there at Eastbrook, and it was we hung on and pulled that one off, and I'm thinking, man, we got a shot at this thing. And then we had Mishawaka coming in that next week, who was like really highly touted and stuff, and they punted the ball to Grant. I said, we got a shot now, and he took it to the house, and then we just rolled.
They were so coachable. It's really hard to say who believed in their success first, us or them. They had swagger. They definitely had swagger, but they were so coachable, and they accepted what we asked them to do, and they accepted criticism. But I think I'm with Chuck. That run right after Western Brunel, you just looked at each other and said, "This is going to happen."
You know, like Smoke mentioned earlier, we lost our first game there in Lucas Oil, we lost our second game, our last game of the season down at Lucas Oil Stadium. But one of the things that I was most proud of with that team is we fell short in the state championship game, and we probably played our worst 7 minutes of football to open up that game and really got ourselves behind the 8 ball. You know, a lot of teams would fold and get blown out in that game, and we really had opportunities. I think that just that whole game speaks to that group. You know, we definitely could. It could have been a much closer looking ball game. I decided to go for it there in our area because we didn't come there to be close, you know. But that group fought. Again, I think that's a different moment, and kind of a moment that didn't work out how we wanted it to and how they wanted it to. But I also think it speaks to who they were as individuals and as who we were as a collective team.
You know, game 2 after such a disappointment in game 1 could have been the point that you begin to tear apart. Could have been the point where young men resist, you know, what it takes to get better. And we came together.
And some of it, for those young guys, is not what they want to hear. But we need them to practice. We're not a school of 4,000 people. We had to have those kids. And they showed up. I mean, so that sticks out to me. I'd like to say something about this whole start of the Hall of Fame thing. I grew up here, and I'll soon be 70 years old. And there's guys going in this Hall of Fame now that were my heroes. Ronnie Ackles is going in this year's group. As a young kid, everybody wanted to be Ronnie Ackles. Kids that were on this team, they couldn't be somebody's heroes too, because of all the things we just talked about.
Well, I think the kids on this team, many of the kids on this team, certainly were good football players. They certainly were good students. But more importantly, they're just good people, and they've become good people, and they've become, you know, good citizens. And that's a lot of what it's about. And a community, especially a small community, takes great pride in the accomplishments, say, of a team.
It takes a long time to build a program, you know, in a football program and put that together. And there are a lot of people before, you know, us who did that. But then I know, you know, Chuck and Smoke and we're part of a lot of really good football teams that helped kind of pave the way for this group to finally break through.
I want to thank this group of kids for accepting coaching, making practice and games fun. You know, it's all about fun for kids anymore. Well, it helps if the coach can have fun too. And these kids made that happen for me.
I'm always telling stories about the old times and stuff like that. And I just appreciate it.
It's so well deserved. You know, like I said, I don't know if this is the most talented group that we ever had from you know, in terms of sheer talent, but it's definitely the best team that I coached in my 10 years.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jared Mason.
Are you ready? Oh, I think I'm ready. Thank you. Good afternoon, I guess. First off, I'd like to say congratulations to all of our honorees. Being a part of the selection committee for this is an honor, and to sit back and talk about people who are so well deserving to be in this Hall of Fame and what the Hall of Fame stands for. I just want to congratulate you first and foremost. I found it ironic as I was sitting there listening. I haven't watched this video yet, but I sat and I listened to what Mr. Street said, you know, kind of spawned this 2012 run, and the conversation that took place at the AIDS Walk in the spring to kind of get that senior group that was coming in, you know, in the right mindset. I found that ironic because I was telling Cory Beck earlier before this, I felt like the thing that really started this 2012 run was pain and disappointment, because they had a better team in 2011. And I felt like as a group, that senior class that they had as juniors in 2011 was not going to let that happen on their watch. And I think you could see that. It spawned itself in every single thing that they did, the way they practiced, the way they prepared. I think it was unparalleled in our success. And to be honest with you, as a principal of the high school at that time, I can tell you that it completely set the tone. And I know there are staff members in here who were teaching in those classrooms and walking the hallways every day. That team set the tone for exactly how the year was going to go. And that's what's really special about a team like this, is that they can set the tone for a year. And that year was extraordinary, and I think they set us up for success. You saw it in the basketball season. The girls' basketball season ended up in the state finals that year, if you'll remember. And I think it all spawned and started because of that team. I promise I'll stop saying the word spawned. I keep saying it all the time. I hate when people do that when they're talking. I thought it was interesting that Mr. Watson stood up here and talked about humility. One of the greatest attributes I think any leader can have is humility. They have to be known to be somebody that can be trusted to lead, and I think that this senior class, for the class of 2012, had exactly that. Those guys knew that they had a mission, and they wouldn't let their peers fall in that mission. And that's a really hard thing to do today. It's hard to tell somebody no. You see it in social media and you see it in society. Nobody likes to be told, no, you can't do that. We're not going to allow that. This is our way. And I think that senior class, more than anything, stood for that very thing. They held each other accountable. And it came because they had great coaches. Those coaches held those players accountable. They pushed them out of their comfort level and into a realm that nobody at Hamilton Heights had ever been in the modern era of the IHSAA. And that's what made that group special. As I think back about the greatest teams I've ever been on, the greatest thing about those teams is we had exceptional leaders. Our coaches were great. Our senior leaders and our team captains were phenomenal. And everyone else, whether you played or you didn't play, you knew your role. And this team existed and was exactly that mold. And I think that's what keeps this group above all of our other teams. And I think you'll see that those very things come out of the 2013 girls basketball team, that they had those qualities. But these guys, they broke the mold for teams at Hamilton Heights. And I'm extremely proud of the things that they've done. A couple of things that I'd like to say here. I've got Cory Beck to introduce. Cory was a 2-year starter, and quite frankly, I feel like he got the support and the drive from his classmates to really make this work. He was a 2-year starter. He was a student of the game. Feel like he did a very good job of understanding what was expected of him and his teammates and holding those kids accountable. I feel like that he set an example on and off the field, and I'd like to introduce Cory so he can come up here and talk about his 2012 team. Cory Beck.
Congratulations. Thank you. Good afternoon. Coach Street asked me to say a few words on behalf of our 2012 team. So first off, would like to say thank you for all of you, your support being here this afternoon. And I want to say thank you to the selection committee for helping to put this together. Would also like to say congratulations to the other inductees this year. Tremendous honor to be a part of this, and so congratulations to all of you. So I think about the 2012 team. You know, we were certainly above the floor talent-wise. We were not the most talented, though. The folks that said that were right. But we had enough really good players. We really didn't have any great players, so to speak, but we had a lot of really good players. And then, you know, another component that was a big part of our team was we had a smart group of kids. You know, what we were able to do schematically, offensively, and defensively, I think set us apart, made us tough to game plan for. We were able to make adjustments in game that I think other teams weren't able to do. And so that was important to our success. But really, I think probably the most important thing was just what we showed up to do every day, and that was to win football games. We were an unselfish group, and so we really had one goal in mind, and that was just to win. And so as I think about, you know, we had a lot of good players, like I said, that knew their roles, knew how they could contribute. A few of us are here today. One of those guys, as I think about a couple examples, would be Aaron Knott. So he's here today. He was a starting safety for us. But, you know, me leading the offense as a quarterback, when the offense screwed up and we didn't get a first down, we'd send Aaron out there and he'd punt the thing 60 yards down the field and help us win the field position battle. And so that made a difference for us. There wasn't anybody who could run a sluggo route better than Spencer Dole. As I think about our run there the last 3 weeks in the state tournament, you know, Spencer scored a touchdown in the state championship game on a sluggo. We converted a really big third down to start the third quarter against Mishawaka in the semi-state on a sluggo. He scored twice on a sluggo in the regional against Eastbrook in a game where we only scored 3 times. And so we had a lot of guys that could do some of those things, knew their roles, had a niche as a part of our team. And so that was really important for our success. You know, another probably the most emblematic, I think, point in the season and a tribute to our success was another guy who's here, and that's Drew Hunter. So Drew went from a guy who was carrying the football a lot as a junior, and even got some carries in the opening loss of the season. And he decided in week 2 that it was the best thing for the team to go and play offensive guard because that provided some depth for us. And we had enough guys that could run the football. But Drew was kind of a unique athlete who was big enough and strong enough, but yet quick enough. And so if I could just pick one thing that was probably most emblematic of our team's success was probably Drew deciding to go do the ugly thing and play offensive guard. But so, you know, and then I'll leave you with kind of a funny one. We had a guy, Landon Cunningham, who was a tight end and a linebacker for us. And so in the semi-state, you know, Landon, he just knew his role. So he'd show up, he'd block, he'd catch a few passes, but it was borderline annoying. So it's like in the second quarter, and all Landon had done the entire game on offense was he'd walk back to the huddle and he'd say, hey, we only need 4 yards and keep the ball. 4 yards, keep the ball. 4 yards, keep the ball. No turnovers. He said it every single time. It's like, would you shut up? Like, I'm trying to call a play. But anyway, he just guys like that did a great job for us in knowing their role and helping us be successful. So I'll leave you with just saying thank you. Thank you again to the selection committee, and thank you and congratulations to all the other inductees in this class.
At this time, I want to introduce and present the plaque to the head coach of that team, the 2012 inductee, the state runner-up team, and head coach, Mr. Mitch Street.
It's fun. Well, I'm not going to talk really long because I don't like doing that, but I would like any coach or player of that team to please stand up. I know we have a lot of the staff here, which is awesome. I would like to congratulate those guys. We have Aaron Knott in the back, who was a safety for us, and like Cory said, was a difference maker as a punter, and also played receiver some for us as well. We have Maxwell Moore. You know, we talked about roles. Cory mentioned that, and everybody had a role and an expectation. And Max probably didn't play as much football as Max wanted to, probably, but Max maximized. That's interesting. Max carried out his role to the fullest, and really proud of Max and what he did and just the attitude that he brought every day to come work. Whether that was as a practice player, as a scout team guy, phenomenal. And I'm really glad you're here, Max. Cole Leininger in the back. Cole played offensive line for us, defensive line. And Cole was thrust into the state championship game as an offensive lineman when he didn't really get a whole lot of reps of that in practice because we had an injury. But Cole was a difference maker for us on defense, and some of the staff at the game last night was talking about that and just the difference maker that he was, and just a tough player that he was for us. Braden Warner primarily played offensive line for us, especially there as in his sophomore year, but played center for us and was steady, just very, very steady. And, he played really good football as a sophomore, but got even better as a junior and senior. But a sophomore playing on an offensive line group in a state runner-up team speaks to his talent. Colin Blackford is up here in the front. Maybe Colin knows this, but probably not a lot of other people who watched us play really know how special Colin was as a football player. The coaches in this room do, and some other people who really know football do, but Colin never got the respect that he really deserved, but he made us go. I mean, we had some very talented people up on the defensive line, and he is A and B. We probably had two stud defensive linemen, Jake Pickett, who was not here today, and Colin Blackford. And we had others too, but those two guys made us go defensive line-wise, and Colin didn't get the respect that he deserved. We talked about Cory Beck. Cory played quarterback for us. Cory was a 2,000-yard passer and had a 1,000-yard season plus, both 2,000-plus-yard passer and a 1,000-yard passer. Set a state record for passing attempts in a state championship game, not because that's what we really wanted to do, but he did. So we had to pass the ball a bunch in that game to try to have a chance to win. But Cory and I really grew together my first year, really. I mean, not my first year, but I guess before I became the head coach, I was a JV offensive coordinator type position, and Cory was the JV quarterback there for a couple years, and really got to kind of grow. I grew as a football coach, and Cory grew as a quarterback, and I really relish those times that we had together, just learning the game together, because I didn't know. I mean, I was learning too, and so I really enjoyed that. And then Drew Hunter in the back. Cory mentioned Drew and just that move. I know for fact Drew did not want to make that move, especially after we played week 1 against Tipton and lost in a game which they were a good football team. They went to state championship the year after that and fell short as well. But they were a really good football team and kind of a year away. But definitely didn't meet your expectations of where we were at. And Drew, I came to Drew and said, what do you think about this? And I met with Drew and his dad, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And let's try it. That's kind of how we came out of the meeting. Let's try it, but we'd like to still get some attempts. And then Pretty good. We ran the ball pretty well, and Drew got to run and go and be physical with people and kind of scratched his back a little bit and gave him some carries, and then we kind of slowly pulled the reins back on the carries, and Drew probably got the picture that, hey, this is all right. But like Cory mentioned, that changed us. The fact that he was willing to do that, kind of put down his own pride and do what was best for us, made us a state championship caliber team. And Drew, and Cory mentioned it too, was a huge part in that. I'd like to introduce coaches that are here too. I fortunately have a good portion of my staff here. Andy Smith. Andy came with us. That's his first year, so Andy got a good experience when Andy came over and got a teaching job here. And I was very fortunate to have a teacher and a coach in the building, and Andy. And I'm very appreciative of who Andy is. Andy works at Lewis Cass now as an assistant principal, and I'm really glad he came. Dan Robinson in the middle here. Dan was our offensive coordinator, and he came. It's kind of a unique situation with Dan. Dan came from a rival school in Northwestern and came and worked with us and joined a staff that had a lot of them worked together for a long time, and Dan fit in like a puzzle piece, and Dan challenged us. We pushed back some against Dan, and it just worked, and I got to work a lot with Dan because I primarily spent my time on the offensive side of the ball, and I consider it a great honor to have worked with him. Chuck Greaves, also in the middle. Chuck is, I consider Chuck one of the greatest Huskies ever. Chuck deserves to be in this Hall of Fame one of these days, and he exemplifies what it is to be Husky, and he'll do anything and everything for you, and I can't thank him enough for what he does and did for me as a football coach and as a person. Behind him is Cameron Mason. Cameron was, some of these guys, Colin, and some of these guys can probably attest, Cameron's a little tough-nosed, some of these other guys in here, and he could coach them like that, but he brought an edge to us. I'm not that guy. Okay, Cameron is that guy, and we, talk about player balance. We had coaching balance too, and Cameron was a huge part in that. He brought toughness. He brought work ethic and what it was every day in practice. And I'm so thankful he came in from Colorado to be here today. Smoke Sterrett. Smoke is very much like Chuck. I mean, I honor I worship those guys when I come in. I'm just watching them work. When I was a young coach, I was only assistant for 3 years. I was stupid and took a head coaching job after 4 years, after only 3 years previous of being an assistant coach. But when I got offered this job in the summer, it was Jason Simmons had taken a job in June, and I was kind of told by these guys in Hawaii, actually, with my wife Brittany, and I got a call like 3 o'clock in the morning Hawaii time, and woken up, and then Jason Simmons on the phone said, "Hey, I'm resigning, and I'm going to push for you to be the head coach." I'm like, "What? I'm 26 years old. I don't know what you're thinking, but let's talk about it. Let me sleep, and we'll talk about it tomorrow." But one of the things I said when I took this job is, I'm not going to do it unless I have Smoke, unless I have Chuck, unless I have Dan, unless Ross is going to stay on, and all those guys. And Chuck Smoke allowed me to do what I knew best, which was offensive line. And Smoke could control the defense, and I could still learn the game. And I could trust Dan to help, and Chuck to help, and all the other guys around me. And Smoke was steady. The thing I most appreciate about Smoke, and I'm talking more than I want to, so I apologize, but Smoke is one of those guys that would tell you like it is. Whether you wanted to hear it or not, he told you like it was. And I appreciated that. Because so many times we like to sugarcoat things and make it sound good and pretty, and we won games, whatever else. But Smoke was the one who started. Smoke and Chuck were the ones who started putting those signs up on the wall that said, "Don't let being good get in the way of being great." We were a good football team, but we saw the opportunities, and Smoke made sure that even when we were winning football games handily, was that good enough? Was that the standard? The standard has to be the standard, and Smoke really was that. And lastly is Ross. Ross Ecker was similar in the way that he was. He's a young coach. He and I worked together, years prior to that, and to see Ross's growth from then to where he is now. He's the current defensive coordinator for us at Hamilton Heights, and really learned from Smoke. And I learned a lot of football from Ross. Ross, we're kind of same age and same goals and same aspirations. And I really appreciate the times that Ross and I kind of built a language because we coached offensive line and defensive line together. I was the head offensive line coach, and he'd help me out, and he was the head defensive line coach, and I would help him out. And we could kind of just, Ross is a man of few words, but we could speak a lot of times without even saying anything. I think he would probably attest to some of that. And I'm super proud of you and just the way that you've grown as a football coach and as a man. And I know you're going to be a dad here soon, and I'm really proud of you. So with that, I would just like to thank you all for coming, all the players and coaches. It's my honor to have coached alongside you guys. And I told some players it's my honor to have had the opportunity to coach you. I can't thank you enough for what you did for me, and just really proud of you guys. So well deserved. Just remind them we want to get pictures. We'll get a group picture.
Once again, thank you all for coming. This is our second inductee class. A big thank you to the committee. It's an amazing set of people, and I think Jared made the comment. When we sit down and we start discussing this, it gets real interesting because everybody we talk about deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. They're Hamilton Heights people. They are what we represent. And there are so many more. So we take our nominations. We like to have them in by March. So if you know of someone, you think of someone that you think would be worthy of this honor, please make sure you can get those in to us. Hopefully our banquet will be a year from now. We'll be back on schedule. But a big thank you to all those that help put it on. It takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of good leadership, and they do a fantastic job. I'd be remiss if I didn't take just a few seconds to introduce these inductees to you one more time. And when I do, I would like for their family to stand with them. I think it's a great representation of who they are, but also the family around them. First of all, Mr. Ron Ackles. Ron, would you stand, your family, please? Let's put our hands together for Ronnie and his family. Congratulations, bud. Next, Mr. Rick Mccoskey. Rick, you and your family stand up, bud. Steve, stand up. Come on. Even though you got an IU shirt on today, it's all right. Congratulations to you, Rick. Mr. Dennis Lockhart. Dennis, you and your family stand up, please. Congratulations to Dennis. Once again, what a representation of what Hamilton Heights is all about. Mrs. Alicia Bundy. Unfortunately, she was unable to be here, and you heard Susan speak. She's an incredible, humble young lady, but so deserving. And Mitch, coaches, and the 2012, if you'd please stand up. Let's put our hands together for that group. How deserving. You know, I remember all those games, and it was an exciting year. It really was. And I've always told everybody that asked me, if we wouldn't have played the first half, I would be introducing you as the 2012 state champs. And that second half, man, the heart you guys had to come out and say, hey, I don't care if you are Chichard, we're going to stick it to you. And it was great. It was great. We are going to take some pictures. When you're done, we'd like to get a picture of you with your plaque, with your family. So feel free to mingle, talk as you like. We'll meet back here in the hallway. Mitchell will kind of lead the way down here. It's on your right-hand side. But once again, we do thank you for being here, taking a Saturday afternoon, come be with us. To all of our speakers, great job. You know, when you talk about what representation is, these individuals that introduced represented them and who we all are all about. So thank you very much. Please have a great weekend and be safe going home. Thank you.